The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
And now it's time for Fantasy Fanatics.
So they have Jokie Bell and Reggie Bush, the two Lions running backs, and I guess they're competing for a first spot. As we originally thought, Reggie Bush would be second string all the way. We didn't even know if he was still on the Lions roster.
Yeah, we thought we got traded away. I don't know where I heard that rumor at, but I thought he got traded.
Right. Yeah. So I know. Because I think last week we sort of thought that Bell would be the first string running back, no question. But there's some of these questions. So let's read this article here. The preseason is in full swing with all 32 NFL teams taking part throughout the weekend. That means fantasy drafts are coming fast and furious. That also means astute fantasy owners are making their draft rankings and likely running into a few brain teasers. This season we'll take on some of those riddles in our weekly Fantasy Audibles column. So they're going to have a Fantasy Audibles column on NFL.com, so that'll be good for us to check weekly and to make sure that we get all the information we need from that. Somebody sent in a tweet for them and said, is Reggie Bush a good pick this year, or will Jay Bell see more touches this year? So it was a bit of a surprise to see a number of teams list multiple starting running backs on their first depth charts of the new season. Maybe those teams are following in the footsteps of the Lions, who essentially had two number one backs last year with Reggie Bush and Jokie Bell, both finishing in the top 20 among fantasy backs in 2013. Last season, with the duo combined for 149 targets, or 8 fewer than Calvin Johnson, and more of the same could be on tap for 2014. While Bush saw a greater share of rushing attempts, it was Bell that led the team in rushing scores. So last year, I know my friend had Bell, and he was definitely really good. He was racking up all the points. And
yeah, he had 3 or 4 weeks there where he was the player to have for the Lions running back.
Yeah, he was just really good, and especially because Calvin Johnson, as far as the Lions go, Calvin Johnson didn't have the best year that he could have had last year. He didn't have that many touchdowns. All the touchdowns are really going from Jokie Bell, really.
Yeah, I think Reggie got injured too. Right.
Yeah, he seems to get injured a lot.
Did Calvin get injured, or was it the quarterback? I think they all got injured at some point.
That's the problem with the Lions. It's hard to pick them to ever win the NFC North because
I remember
everyone gets injured.
At one point, I was like, Burleson sounds like a good option.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another guy there. But and so more could be the same. Bell led the team in rushing scores. This season could see even a more distribution of touches between the two running backs. In the end, that makes either of them no better than a running back two, albeit pretty productive among that tier. But when Bush, so when he gets the early nod as the starter on Detroit's depth chart, he's the back to target first. If you can somehow handcuff him with Bell, go for it. But with both rushers being so productive, it might be tough to actually accomplish that. So
yeah, it's going to be a split backfield. And Bush isn't really a running back anyway. He's more of a wide receiver.
That's true.
Back.
He's more of a receiving running back, sort of like Matt Forte, only not. I don't think he's as good as Matt Forte.
Matt Forte can run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Matt Forte also gets a lot of receiving yards too.
Yeah. They do pass to him, but it's nothing like how much. The differential between Bush's running and passing is huge.
Yeah. So this next question comes from this other person who tweeted at the account. I guess he has Alshon Jeffrey and Michael Crabtree, so I guess he's deciding on which one to keep.
Crabtree.
Keep Alshon or Crabtree?
Crabtree.
Okay, so you say Crabtree. I actually have Michael Crabtree on my team. I don't have Alshon Jeffrey. The fundamental question here is whether the second option in one team's passing game can have more fantasy value than the first option of another team. In this case, the answer is yes. Alshon Jeffrey had a breakout campaign last year, ending the season 8th among fantasy receivers, all while playing second fiddle to Brandon Marshall in the Bears' passing game. And so, admittedly, last season's numbers don't work out evenly since Michael Crabtree missed a significant he missed a significant part of the season while rehabbing an injury. But a deeper look shows that Jeffrey was still better on a per-game basis, averaging better than 12 fantasy points each week. That's because pretty much, well, and then once Josh McCown came in,
McCown is when Alshon blew up.
Yeah. I mean, I think Alshon Jeffrey had those 2 touchdowns against the Lions, and that was in Detroit.
I think
was with Jay Cutler,
Alshon's stats compared to last year are going to be less. His last year stats were inflated.
Right.
Because McCown actually spread the ball around.
Yeah, I could see like him and Marshall. I think Marshall's going to still be, the number one go-to guy. And I think he's going to get a lot more touchdowns than he got last year because he didn't get a whole lot.
I've said this argument 1,000 times. The reason Cutler gets picked off so much is because he stares down Marshall the entire time. He doesn't check down. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that's one of the things that they're working on. Is Jay? He doesn't. I mean, he's got two wide receivers that are equally good, so he should be able to throw to both the same, right? I mean, that's what I'm hoping. Anyway.
You would hope, but I don't think so. I mean, Martellus Bennett's been on your team for like 3 years, underutilized.
Yeah. Let's see. Last season's numbers don't work out evenly since Michael Crabtree missed a significant portion of this season while rehabbing an injury, but a deeper look shows that Jeffrey was still better on a per-game basis, averaging more than 12 fantasy points. By contrast, Michael Crabtree has never posted better than a 10.3 point per game average in his first career, in his whole career, and fell to just 6.9 points per game last season. The 49ers figure to throw the ball more in 2014, but it's hard to imagine that such a run-heavy offense is going to be able to change its stripes overnight. So he says to bear down and roll with Alshon Jeffrey this season. So he goes Jeffrey, and I know you went Michael Crabtree. I'm pretty happy with Michael Crabtree on my fantasy team.
He's one of the main targets there.
Right.
And he didn't even really get to see his full potential last year with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that he definitely has a high ceiling.
Same with Percy Harvin. I picked up Percy Harvin. He had like 1 game last season.
Yeah.
But he's going to destroy the slot. He's the best slot receiver in the NFL, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't get injured, which hopefully he won't, then that would be a good thing to have. And then this last one is kind of a dumb question, but
I love dumb questions.
Trent Richardson or Fred Jackson?
That is a dumb question.
I'm sad that this person got stuck with these 2 people, but
C.J. Spiller doesn't heal because he's a vampire, so that high ankle sprain is still going to be happening this season.
Yeah, this is going to be it's an interesting question. I feel bad for this guy.
I'd go with Fred Jackson, man. I mean, seriously.
Here, let's see who they are going with. He says that you should go with Fred Jackson, so he agrees with you.
Oh, good.
He's likely to be one of the oldest running backs seeing work in the league this year, but he's still just as likely to be productive. Jackson stepped in for an injured and unproductive C.J. Spiller last season and became a top 10 fantasy rusher.
He was huge.
Barring another poor campaign from Spiller, Jackson won't see as many touches, but the Bills are still likely to lead with their running game, which means the veteran should see plenty of work.
That means E.J. Manuel is going to be running the ball, not the running back.
And we know Trent Richardson won't be seeing a whole lot.
Trent Richardson averaged 2 point, maybe even 2 point. It might have been a 1.8.
Yeah.
It was bad.
He's on the Colts now, right?
You thought the trade was crazy, but then you're like, he's bad.
Yeah.
The same thing happened to Hillis. There's just a curse in Cleveland. As soon as they leave Cleveland, they are horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But hey, I also heard that Hoyer is going to be the starter for their preseason game, which I think is tonight, or maybe it was yesterday.
Well, that means nothing.
Yeah, well, I know it doesn't mean anything, but normally, your new guy would start the first 2, and then your third game you'd have whoever your starter is going to be. So maybe Manziel will end up being the starter this year.
Yeah, I can see that. And by the way, Jackson is from my hometown college, College.
Oh, is
it?
Yep. Okay, well then you got all the more reason to like him and root for him this year.
The pride and joy of College, thank you.
All right. Okay, so these are some sleeper picks for the league, and it says
sleeper picks.
So let's see. Are you yawning over there?
I was just doing like a live promo for sleeper picks. I'll do it again.
Okay.
Sleeper picks.
So these are some guys to keep an eye on, especially during this preseason, because they're going to get more time, and then we can really see if they're going to be sleeper picks or not. But on this list, you have C.J. Anderson, running back for the Denver Broncos. Now, I'm surprised that this guy is on here, because, I mean, they already have a lot of running backs.
I
right?
cannot believe they got rid of No Sean Moreno.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a little interesting that they got rid of No Sean Moreno, so I guess that's why this guy is C.J. Anderson would be a sleeper pick. But it says, don't be swayed by the depth charts or coach speak before a preseason game. Ronnie Hillman is running with the ones in the wake of Monty Ball's appendectomy. So I guess Monty Ball had an appendectomy. I didn't know that. But.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's a horrible running back anyway.
But we've been down this road previously. And seriously, Monty Ball, this is why I just can't trust the guy this season. So he's not really trusting Monty Ball, which is why he thinks C.J. Anderson could be a sleeper. James White, running back for the New England Patriots, and it says, if you want me to find a former Wisconsin running back I can endorse, let's go with White, who looks like he's going to start the season as the number 2 guy behind Shane Vereen in New England.
New England has like a 4-person squad of running backs, and you don't know which one the hot hand plays. They'll never get a New England running back.
Right. Let's see, who else is on this list? Terrence West, who I haven't really heard of. He's a running back for the Cleveland Browns. I know those of you who have stuck with me all summer will roll their eyes and be like, there's Rank again talking about Terrence West. But seriously, West is going to be a stud this year. He sees over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns for him this season.
No. You know what I see out of Cleveland?
4 wins, maybe?
No. Fozzie Whitaker. I'm calling it now. Fozzie Whitaker.
Wow.
On the board.
Let's see. Who else? Okay. So there's more people. Rashad Jennings, running back for the Giants. He's on this list. And he's, it says, if the Hall of Fame game did not get your motor running for Jennings, well, then you're not human, it says. Or you didn't watch. And if you're looking for a number 2 back to fall on from New York, check out Andre Williams.
Are they looking for talent at the Hall of Fame game? Because that's like an exhibition game.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Garbage. It's like, oh, he did good at the All-Star game. It's an All-Star game. Come on.
Right.
It's not serious.
Well, let's not take that very seriously.
No.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to go over more of these games as we go to break, but there's also some wide receivers and tight ends on that list, and then we'll get to a couple other NFL stories that we've pulled up for you. So stick around to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
I'm Andrew Freeman, and we're talking NFL here in SportsTownChicago.com, Fantasy Fanatics.
Yes, we are. And we went over some sleeper running backs. Now we're going to go over some sleeper wide receivers, and there's just 2 tight ends then as well. Some wide receivers. We got Justin Hunter, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans. You'll see Kendall Wright higher in the rankings, but Hunter has all of the tools. If he can just hang on to the ball more, then he'll be more of an important receiver. But this is why he's on the sleeper list and not the automatic stud list. Tavon Austin, wide receiver for St. Louis. I know he was supposed to have a really good season last year, but he didn't get much opportunity, partly because Bradford was injured and then their team sort of just kept going down. But Tavon Austin is definitely a guy that has a lot of hype. I've seen the hype for Kenny Britt for years, but he doesn't ever want to live in a world where Mike Mayock isn't right. That's commentator. But, so he says Tavon Austin could definitely be a good wide receiving option along with Kenny Britt. Marcus Wheaton, wide receiver for the Steelers. Wheaton lost most of his rookie season to a pinky injury. Out of all things. But he's all healed up and ready to go this year. He opens the ones opposite Antonio Brown. He should benefit from the attention to have to. He should benefit from the attention teams have to pay. And then Andre Hawkins, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. There's 2 Browns on here. That's a little interesting, too. Because I don't know if you should really draft anybody on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. I'd hold off on that.
Yeah, I know we didn't.
We don't even know who's starting as quarterback.
Right, yeah. If you don't know who your starting quarterback is, then you might want to steer clear of that team. Or, because, I mean, there shouldn't be a competition with that, but when you have 2 not-so-very-good quarterbacks, that's what happens. So they say Andrew Hawkins, this is going to be a little risky until we learn the fate of Josh Gordon. But Hawkins is poised to lead the team in receptions. He's been the only Browns receiver to distinguish himself according to our own analytics, and he gets comparisons to Wes Welker too. Wow, which always makes me roll my eyes this early in camp. But somebody has to catch the ball in Cleveland if Gordon is gone. And then 2 tight ends on here: Garrett Graham, Houston Texans tight end. Too bad it's not Jimmy Graham, but. Make your Ryan Fitzpatrick jokes if you must, but he's not as bad as you think. He's not great, but you all think he's much worse than he is. I have confidence in Bill O'Brien to get something out of Fitzpatrick. Not enough for me to get him on my fantasy team, but enough to look for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, and also and then also tight end Garrett Graham. So he loves tight ends. So if you miss out on one of the top tight ends, circle back for Graham. So that's it for that. So those are just some sleeper picks. I don't know if we'll have to do those or not, but here's an article. This is about the Dallas Cowboys and how they will miss the playoffs again, which I agree with.
Yes, I agree as well.
Cowboys will miss playoffs again. Romo's health, a tough schedule, and a bad defense all holding Dallas back, which is definitely true. So let's see what it says here. There's a picture of, let's see, who is this? That's Maurice Claiborne and the Cowboys defense and how bad they are. Because I remember that Bears game in December, the Bears killed the Cowboys like 40-10 or something. It was crazy, but
it's a bad sign when the Bears defense is better than
exactly.
Especially for last year.
When the Bears defense, which was pretty much the worst in the league last year, it beats somebody up that bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it says 18 seasons have passed since Barry Switzer asked Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones after the team won Super Bowl 30 if he's having a good time now. I'm not quite sure what that means, but
I don't know.
Recently, Jones has frustratingly watched his team go 8-8 in 3 straight seasons. Wow. So they went 8-8 the last 3 seasons.
I foresee the Chicago Bears doing the same thing.
I don't think they're going to go 8-8.
8-8 this year.
We can talk about that a little later, but
we already talked about it. We already had that conversation.
Yeah, I'm saying 10 or 11 wins. That's my pick.
We'll see what happens.
So 8-8 in 3 seasons obviously is not such a good time. In the Football Outsiders Almanac 2014, the Cowboys have a mean projection of 6.9 wins and postseason odds of 19.5%. That's based on 1 million simulations of the upcoming season, which account for factors like recent performance, personnel changes, and injury history. A year ago, we gave Dallas 6.9 mean projected wins and postseason odds of 16.2%. So the odds are a hair higher than this year, but keep in mind we have only 6 teams with a smaller mean win projection than Dallas in 2014, and only 5 teams that have a lower playoff odd. So they're projecting that Dallas is going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year.
Well, I don't like Tony Romo as a quarterback.
Right.
I don't like their running back.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense, nah.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much have, the good wide receiver, and that's like the extent of it.
Let's do a little something here. Let's have some fun.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say teams, and you say if they do better or worse than the Cowboys.
Okay.
Indianapolis.
The
Colts.
Yeah. They'll do a lot. I think the Colts could go not to the Super Bowl, but definitely to the AFC Championship.
Okay, let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons.
That's a tough one because they came off a real bad season, but I could see them finishing about equal with Dallas.
And my last one, of course, is the Cleveland Browns.
I still think they'll be worse.
I think they'll be better.
Ooh.
Look at their defense. They have Hayden in the backfield. They have a solid defense. Maybe if they play Hoyer instead of Manziel, the offense will have a chance. They have pretty good running backs, pretty good wide receivers. I don't see why they wouldn't do better than Dallas.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because, I mean, I don't think the Cowboys really made any offensive moves. So.
I feel like the Cleveland's they're going to be the comeback team of this season.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because I think they definitely improved, but I think it's going to take more than a year to get all that figured out. But
this is the year.
it's the year Cleveland fans. We got the Cavaliers, you got the Indians, and you got the Browns. They're all making it to the playoffs.
All going to win championships.
Right. So another 8-8 finish in 2014 might be disappointing, or it could be a mark of overachievement if you consider the current state of the Cowboys. So yeah, that's possible. No team in the 94-year history of the NFL has finished 500 in 4 consecutive seasons. So it's time for Dallas to get over the hump or fall hard.
I kind of want it to happen now.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
It's never happened before. Let's see it.
They always seem like an 8-8 team.
Yeah.
Because every time you think of the Cowboys, you always think, they have a good history, but they never seem to make it to the playoffs.
It's not the 90s anymore, my friend.
Right.
You don't have Emmitt Smith or Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Both Hall of Famers.
Right.
And you're paying Romo Hall of Famer money when he's really not that good.
Yeah. I think he was good when he first came up.
Yeah.
And then
maybe his third year, but it's been 5 seasons.
Well, he had a really
then.
good year that year where they lost dramatically. I think that was in the playoffs where he fumbled the ball or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
I think that was a really good year for him, but yeah, obviously it all fell down there. So, the following factors are a good sampling of why he hopes for a successful Dallas season are bleak. So, yeah, don't have very high hopes for them, but you never know what could happen. We're gonna do an update, and then we'll come back, and we just have one more kind of a more fun, entertaining article about some guy on the Colts who was live tweeting during a preseason game last night. Live tweeting about how he was mad he got cut from the Colts team. So we'll talk about that too, and then we'll tell you maybe a little bit about our fantasy football team and all that's going on. But right now, we're going to do an update. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
I'm Freeman.
And we were talking about fantasy football and everything that goes into that as we went over sleeper picks. We went over some other things, too. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Stuprich.
You can follow me at Freeman Radio.
Yes, and so make sure you guys do that to stay interactive with the show. So we have just one more football thing here to go over, and then we'll probably talk about a couple other things. But Chris Rainey, who was a former Colts running back, but he was released on July 28th because he had a violation of team rules or something. But he says he didn't break the Colts rules. So things were supposed to slow down a bit once quarterback Andrew Luck and the rest of the Indianapolis Colts offense left Thursday night's preseason game after the first series against the New York Jets. But former Colts running back Chris Rainey, who was released July 28th for a violation of team rules, did his part via Twitter to try to keep things interesting in the Jets' 13-10 win. So here's a quote. "Yeah, I'm pissed watching the Colts game when I should be out there too, even though I didn't break no bleep team rules, not even," Rainey tweeted. Rainey put up another tweet 4 minutes later after running back Daniel Boom Herron scored a touchdown. "Nice TD, Boom, even though you were in the hallway with me that night when we were horsing around with the fire extinguisher. Man up like I did," Rainey tweeted.
That's a federal offense if he...
Right. I don't understand what he's doing with a fire extinguisher. Yeah. So he later deleted the 2 tweets, but it was too late as several of his followers took screenshots of them. So while details of his release remain cloudy, Rainey's departure came a year after he was arrested and charged with a count of simple battery in Gainesville, Florida, in January 2013. So I'm thinking maybe that's not a very good guy to have on your team. If because he already had a.
I don't think anyone's
record.
picking him up.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of him. I don't know where he went to school or anything, or I'm not sure where he played college ball. But wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
right there.
Firing a fire extinguisher, pulling the pin or whatever in a building. I believe it's a federal offense.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
That's
right.
It's
like
felony.
I don't think you can do that. Our fantasy football league was our draft was last week, and that was definitely a big success as we had everyone pretty much participate in that. So that was good. And we will probably after this break, we're probably going to go over some of the
matchups.
Yeah, some of the matchups for this week for sure, and maybe take a quick glance at the teams and see maybe who we think is going to win, who we think is going to lose that week. I know I got a pretty good shot because I have I've got CJ Spiller.
CJ Spiller? Are you seriously saying you have a shot with CJ Spiller?
Well, because I have CJ Spiller and Matt Forte. No, I have CJ Spiller and Matt Forte. So when you have those two together and they're going to be playing against each other, and both the defenses aren't very good, it could definitely be something special there. I think I'm going to get a lot of points from Matt Forte and Spiller. So.
I got one word for that. Boo!
Hey, I'm saying it could happen. But
don't defend yourself, boo.
So we'll go over all that and more on Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
And why don't you tell us, Andrew, what is going on in our Fantasy Football League?
Our Fantasy Football League, there's been a lot of interesting movements.
There has been, for sure.
Such as, who's WVE? Let me check this real quick before I go on.
I think that's Luke's team, my friend Luke, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luke Wave. Don't know why it's...
I don't know what that means.
Luke Wave dropped Sean Green, added Mike Evans. Vagabonds dropped Brian Hoyer, added Alex Smith, and then he dropped Greg
that
Zerline.
Was a good move.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then he dropped Greg Zerline and picked up Kevin Benjamin, someone I never heard of.
Right.
And then you added Doug Baldwin.
Yes, I did.
And dropped Cecil Shorts.
I mean, he's on Jacksonville. I didn't want that on my team.
Potato.
No Jaguars.
No Jaguars. Then you added the Steelers defense and dropped Bernard Pierce.
Yeah.
Then Mark added Ben Roethlisberger, dropped Chris Johnson. Then Ashish, good friend of mine, added Chris Johnson and dropped Shane Vereen. Doesn't make sense to me, but touche. Then Vagabond dropped Alex Smith, who he just picked up, and added Sam Bradford, which is a worse quarterback than Alex Smith.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess he's hoping for a big year. I mean, if Bradford is healthy, I mean, he could have a pretty good year, but I'd still rather want Alex Smith.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, the Chiefs have already proven that they're capable.
Pretty much does exactly what Peyton Manning does, just not as successful. The short passes.
Right.
He doesn't throw it long.
Yeah, I agree. So that's pretty interesting. So week 1 starts, I think, September 8th or 7th is the first Sunday of actual NFL games. So who are we playing in our league for week 1?
The matchups. Chi-Town is going against a Freeman of Fantasy.
All right.
A San Jose Wombats is going against the Luke Wave. And believe me, Luke Wave is a lukewarm. A Cutlass Crew.
That's me.
A disgraceful person who didn't even pick up his quarterback except for his backup.
Yeah, he's my backup.
Backup quarterback. I call that traitorism. You're a regular Benedict Arnold.
Benedict Arnold.
Cutlass Crew is going against his homeboy, Team Hoppia.
Oh, man.
The Vagabonds up against Coco and Company.
All right.
Fire-breathing rubber duckers.
I still have yet to find out what that means. I should ask Ryan Risky what that means.
They're like dragons, but they're rubber, and they're duckies. Go up against the Tucker right in the posy. Which I've been hearing that phrase a lot lately. I don't know what it means.
Well, unfortunately, we can't tell you what it means. But, Yeah, so those are going to be our.
Oh, I know what it
week
means,
one.
sir. But why are people saying it in the streets?
I don't know, man. So we have a little bit of time because at around 3:30 or probably around 3:30 after our update, we're going to talk to Andrew's friend Ashish, who's going to talk about probably his two teams. Right? Is he going to talk about fantasy baseball and fantasy football?
Just the fantasy baseball.
Just
and
the fantasy
bet,
baseball teams.
The treacherous bet that was put against him by the 162-0. Who is in last place?
That's right, because you guys had a bet a few weeks ago, and yeah, so he'll be talking about that, and yeah, he'll also be talking about some of the moves he's made in the league because he seems to make the most moves out of anyone in our league.
He likes to rise up from adversity. No, he really does make. Let's look.
Oh, there's
at
Andrew. He's back.
Yeah,
Andrew's back. Okay.
Let's look at the honorable Ray Sharpton or whatever the hell his name is left the building.
Yeah.
Let's look at the baseball fantasy. I have it on football right now.
Yeah. While you're looking at that, I just wanted to say real quick, Javier Baez, he has his home debut tonight. I'm glad that they brought him up while he was on the road, so he didn't have to deal with all the media hype and all the people, expecting him to go 4 for 4 with 4 home runs. A lot of Cubs fans were in Colorado. I heard on the news, or I was reading something, that a lot of people from Chicago drove to Colorado just to see Javier Baez play in his debut, which is pretty interesting. I mean, it's pretty interesting that they could just stop what they're doing, drive. I don't know how far Colorado is. It's got to be more than 12 hours away, and they drove all the way there to see him play.
No, he's back. Everyone wants to see the coming of the Baez.
That's right.
Everybody wants to see this Phoenix rise up, and take over baseball. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Speaking of which, the Windy City did make a lot of moves.
Yeah, he made a lot today, too, I think.
4 moves today. He added Wei Chin, dropped Zach Wheeler there.
Yeah.
And then he added Willie Peralta and dropped Wei Chen, who he just picked up. Then he added Zach Wheeler, who he dropped to begin with.
He's very indecisive.
And dropped Willie Peralta. Sounds like he needs some advice. And then he added Willie Peralta and dropped Danny Santana. So we'll have to ask him about that when he calls in.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Sounds like he's insecure about his team.
Right. Well, I mean, I think he's hovering around 500. He's in the playoffs, as far as I know, as probably a 5th or 6th seed.
Let me take a look.
6 out of the 10 teams go to the playoffs. The other 4 in the consolation round, which doesn't mean anything. But
he is at the moment.
I'm guessing 4th or 5th.
He's 8 and 9, so
okay.
He's floating around the middle of the pack.
I think if you go to the league homepage and go to full standings, I think you can see the projected teams that would be facing off in the playoffs against each other.
And it looks like he's winning this week, but it also looks like 162-0 is winning this week, so he's going to stay 3 games back.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I know San Jose Wombats is on a 2-game winning streak. Yeah, possibly. And if he wins this week, he could be in the playoffs.
Looks like you're going to get destroyed and be tied for first with I Like Stanton.
Yeah, I mean, I know it happened to you last week where he just scored a ridiculously high point total. He's doing that again to me. It's
happening again.
Yeah, it's happening again. He scored 98 points last night.
That's crazy.
And I only scored, I think, 57.5 or something. Yeah,
that's still a good night.
Yeah, well, that's why I was really mad, because I had a really good night. I had Hyun-Jin Ryu pitched really well. Kyle Hendricks, who I recently picked up, pitched really well yesterday afternoon at Colorado. So, yeah, I was really kind of upset about that. But yeah, let's talk about Javier Baez as the Baez buzz continues. And remember, the Cubs are playing their Rays at 3:05 today. So in about 20 minutes or so, they're going to be playing.
Who's the genius that picked him up?
You did.
Oh.
Because I wasn't looking at the time.
And I was reaping the sweet benefits from that nectar. I'm back in the game. I was like 80 points down, and now I'm leading.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a good move, obviously, to get Javier Baez.
Tulowitzki's out, and my other shortstop was Didi Gregorius. So,
that
was a no-brainer.
Obviously Javier Baez was the right move.
I would rather play Baez when he's still in Triple League than play Didi Gregorius.
Yeah, I'm hoping Javier Baez can hit a home run today. I think that'd be really good for all the fans that came out because,
that'd almost make him
because
hitting a home run every game since he's been
right.
part of the Cubs.
Well, because if Javier Baez wasn't, if he wasn't called up yet, these Friday afternoon games are not. I mean, in the summer they get close to being sold out, but they're not necessarily all sold out. But this is going to be a sold out game, no doubt.
Oh heck yeah!
Because everyone's going to want to see him. There's going to be a big standing ovation. I can't wait to see the highlights of it because we'll be on the air when that's happening.
I mean, you cannot. I couldn't picture someone being as good as Rizzo on the Cubs team.
Right.
And Baez might even surpass that.
He could. I mean, sure, he'll go through his struggles eventually, but, he might have a sophomore slump or whatever.
I just hope the Cubs don't do something dumb next season, like trade him away.
Yeah, well, if they're going to trade anybody, it would probably be Castro.
Yeah, trade Castro.
And I think it should be Castro, because I think Baez, he really got something good here, and then Addison Russell is.
But if you could, what position does Addison Russell play?
He's traditionally a shortstop. He can play second, possibly third, but
then
you're going to have
need
Chris
Castro,
Bryant
because I was talking about moving Castro to second, possibly third.
Right. I mean, for the time being, it's going to be Castro short, Javier Baez second, but once Addison Russell comes up or once Chris Bryant comes up, some things are going to be moved around a little bit, and if anyone was to go, I think it probably would be Starlin, because you could get some good stuff for Starlin, because he's already Major League ready. He's already proven that he can be a decent player in the MLB. So, but let's read this article about Javier Baez, who hit 2 home runs yesterday to beat the Rockies.
I'm going to buy his shirt.
And then also our young starter Kyle Hendricks went 8 strong innings, so I was happy about that too. Javier Baez gave Cub fans more reason to be giddy about his arrival at Wrigley Field today. Baez belted a pair of home runs and added an RBI single, driving in 4 runs in his 3rd big league game to back Kyle Hendricks and power the Cubs to a 6-2 victory over the Rockies at Coors Field on Thursday. Baez, who hit the game-winning home run in the 12th inning on his debut on Tuesday, led off the 6th with a home run and then a 2-run opposite field shot in the 8th. He's the first Cubs player ever with a multi-homer game in his 3rd career game, and it's the 23rd time it's happened in MLB history, so he's in a special group there. The last player to do so was Yasiel Puig, who went yard twice in his 2nd career game. Rockies manager Walt Weiss saw Baez, who's 21 years old, in spring training and was impressed, but didn't want to compare the Cubs rookie to the Dodgers outfielder. Puig is just so physical, Weiss said. Baez is... so is Javier Baez for an infielder. Baez doesn't look like a typical middle infielder, and he doesn't swing like a typical middle infielder, which is true. He swings like, your number 4 first baseman hitter type guy. I mean, he gets down almost on one knee, sort of like Vladimir Guerrero. He kind of reminds me of him a little bit in his swing. But Yasiel Puig is a different type of animal, which is true. The Cubs' top pick in the 2011 first-year player draft, Baez now has 4 hits and 5 RBIs in his first 3 big league games. He's the second player since 1914 to have 3 home runs in his first 3 games, and first since Joe Cunningham did so in 1954. So Baez makes his Wrigley Field debut today. It'll be Christmas in August for Cubs fans who have been waiting to see some of the much-hyped top prospects in the big leagues, and there's actually some people here who are going to the game. I know Ryan Risky's at the game right now. He has Cubs season tickets, but he's at the game, so I'll probably ask him how that went, how the atmosphere was when he got his name called with a standing ovation. I mean, it'd be pretty cool to go to that game. Unfortunately, we're on the air. Otherwise, I'd be there.
Yeah, we both would.
Yeah, it's really cool. So he sort of downplayed the hoopla Javier Baez did. He said, I don't know, to me it's just another game, Baez says. Does he think he'll be nervous? No, not really, he said. I've played 3 games, and even though we're playing right away, we've had a lot of fans of the Cubs in Colorado, which is true, because there was. Rookie Alzmendri Alcantara gave the Cubs a 1-0 lead in the 2nd with an RBI single. Chris Valleca, who's been a recent call-up for the Cubs, he's sort of he played first base yesterday because Anthony Rizzo had an off day because they had a day game after a night game. But he's been pretty good, too. So this is really interesting because now there's a whole lot of options for the Cubs.
Let's just replace the entire Cubs starting lineup with some call-ups. See what happens.
Right. Well, the thing is that they felt Javier Baez was ready, which is true. He was tearing the cover off the ball like no other player. I mean, in the minor leagues, he's batting like 4-something in the month of June, and the month of July he's batting 360 or thereabout. But so he launched a 3-2 pitch from starter Johan Flande for his second career home run, and so that was really exciting. And then also Kyle Hendricks, who played with Baez for a couple of years in the minor leagues, isn't surprised at all. When he does things like he did today, it's hard to not be excited, and everyone in the dugout is feeling it, Hendricks said. There's a lot of energy with some of the young guys, especially since Baez has been brought up. It's fun having them around. So, Baez, who hit 23 home runs at AAA Iowa, always thrives on a big stage, Hendricks said. Every time we have a big game, he does well. He's really fun to watch, and I'm glad he's up here. So that's a little bit about Javier Baez. We're going to go to break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about more of our baseball. And then coming up in about a half hour, we're going to have Andrew's friend Ashish call in to talk about his fantasy baseball team. So he'll talk about that, and we'll also go over the pitching matchups for this week. And we'll also talk about John Lester, who threw a 3-hitter in his second career game with the Oakland A's. So stick around to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
And as Queen takes us back into the show, which is always nice, we have at about 3:30 after our update, we're going to have Andrew's friend Ashish, and he's also in our fantasy football and baseball leagues. He'll be on the show to talk about his fantasy baseball team and some of the moves he made and some of the confusing moves he made by adding starting pitchers, dropping them, and then adding them back.
Some circular reasoning going on.
It's definitely kind of confusing. And then also a little later on, we're going to go over our pitching matchups for last week and told you who won.
I hope I won.
And then we'll go over the matchups for this week as well. And by the way, me and Andrew have already picked our teams for the Cubs-Rays game, which is just getting underway. And I picked Chris Archer for the Rays, and Andrew's going with Wada.
I'm going with Javier Baez.
Yeah, if Javier Baez was pitching, I'd go with him too. Because, I mean, he can do everything, right?
Yep, everything. Just like Adam Dunn.
Just like Adam Dunn, that's right. Adam Dunn can come into a game when they're losing 16-0 and get 3 ground balls. It was pretty impressive, actually.
He should have started that game.
Right.
Obviously, if it's 16-0.
Well, he should be in their bullpen because the Sox have an awful bullpen. So, I mean, he should be their go-to guy in the bullpen after the starter gets pulled.
I also feel like Baez should be our closer, but we'll see.
Here's what you do, because you have Adam Dunn in the bullpen, then Paul Konerko can be the designated hitter again, and there you go.
There you go.
So here's something about John Lester, who, of course, he was traded from the Red Sox to a World Series contending team in the Oakland A's. Lester dominates, and he took a perfect game into the 6th inning. So a superb John Lester flirted with perfection for 5 innings Thursday evening at the Coliseum, ultimately settling on a 3-hit shutout in a 3-0 victory over the Twins. So it was the Minnesota Twins, so you can only take this with a grain of salt, but still, it was pretty impressive. They're the first team to 70 wins, and Lester's routine dominance only further cemented their reasoning for last week's startling trade with the Red Sox, who took Yoenis Cespedes from them in a deal no one saw coming. Cespedes will be missed sorely, no doubt, but the A's offense still has plenty in its tank to do just enough to throw some runs on the board. And that's all that John Lester needs. The Southpaw fanned 8 and allowed just 3 hits and 2 walks on a night that ended to the soundtrack of fans chanting Lester, Lester in a roaring Coliseum. So that's good. The biggest thing is to feel welcomed, said Lester. We all know what Cespedes did for this organization and how well he's liked. Just coming over here, you know you don't want to screw that up. You want to make the trade look like it had a purpose and it was good. You don't want to come in halfway through the year after these guys have been battling their butts off to be in first place and screw that up. And I thought that was kind of an interesting quote that he said, because Jason Hamill, since he's been on Oakland, I don't think he has a win for them.
Hasn't done anything.
And his ERA is like in the 8s or 9s, and
It's bad.
he's not doing too good. I think he pitches tonight, and he still is on my fantasy team, but
Why?
one more bad outing, he's gone. Because I think last time out he gave me like -8 points.
That's no good.
So that wasn't good. I mean, I already knew I was going to win, so it was okay. So I was able to deal with it, but this week I need the points, and if Hamill does that, there's probably no way I'm going to come back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it would not be good.
He is a bad pitcher.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to drop him if he does bad. If he
Just
doesn't
drop
get
him.
if he doesn't get more than 5 points today, I think
Get rid.
I'm gonna drop him.
Get rid of him.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna get rid of him.
Drop him right now.
I'm not gonna drop him right now. I'm gonna let him start.
Ooh, Baez is up. Ooh, the game started.
Oh, is he up now?
Yeah, he's not up now, but
All right,
he's
well,
second in the bottom of the first. Wow.
Here, well, let's do some play-by-play of it.
Absolutely nothing's happening.
Yeah.
No.
Just
I think it's about to start. It hasn't started
okay.
yet.
Well, once you find out what he did for his first at bat, let us know right away.
Yes.
So we can.
Once the pitches
So we
start
can-
flying, I will let you know.
So
it
we can,
looks like
talk about it.
we are not batting first. Indeed, Tampa Bay is.
Well,
so
yeah, of course. But-
It's 0-1 count. There's one strike.
all right. Well, let us know when Baez is up, so we can
All right.
be prepared to talk about it.
Ball one.
So anyway, it was Lester's first shutout of the season, but the fourth of his career, which also included a 2008 no-hitter that he got. He was on track for another until the start of the sixth, when Kurt Suzuki lined a clean single over the head of shortstop Eric Sogard, who perhaps gets to it if only he was taller. So yeah, that's sort of just about John Lester and how good he's done these last few times up that he's gone up. But right now, we're going to go over the pitching matchups from last week.
Oh, yes.
So here we go.
This always gets me pumped up.
Yeah, so I already went through it, so I do know who the winner is. I'm not going to give it away, though, but let's start off here with Philadelphia and Washington. That was Roberto Hernandez versus Doug Fister. We both went with Doug Fister, and Doug Fister lost, so no points there.
Damn it.
Seattle and Baltimore. That was Elias versus Wei and Chen, and we both went with Chen, and he won, so we both get a point.
All right,
So
1-1.
So it's 1-1.
The first, Wada struck out the first pitcher. Just throwing that out
All right,
there.
cool. Texas and Cleveland. That was Williams versus Salazar. Andrew went with Salazar. I went with Williams. Salazar got the win, so Andrew is up 2-1.
Yeah.
Colorado and Detroit. We got Morales versus Verlander. We both went with Verlander, and Verlander did get the win.
Wow.
So
I wasn't expecting Verlander to actually win.
Yeah,
He's had a horrible season.
He's 9-9 with a 4.79 ERA.
That's bad.
So I think Andrew is up 3-2 right now. Cincinnati and Miami. We had Latos versus Cosart. Andrew went with Latos. I went with Cosart, and Andrew got the win as Matt Latos did. So
I'm
you're
pulling
up,
away. I'm pulling away.
You're up 4-2. And now we have LA and Tampa Bay. Shoemaker versus Hellickson. I got the win there. I picked Shoemaker, and he'd won, so it's 4-3 in favor of Andrew. New York and Boston. That was Capuano versus Randade, who was making his Major League debut. And you went with the guy that was making his Major League debut.
Absolutely.
And I went with Capuano, and guess what? The guy who was doing his Major League debut, he got the win.
Oh, snap.
So you're up 5-3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-3. San Francisco and New York. We both went with Vogelsson. Vogelsson did get the win, so it's 6-4. Minnesota and Chicago White Sox. We had Darnell versus Sale. This ended up being a no decision. Next game was also a no decision. That was Toronto and Houston. Game after that, Milwaukee and St. Louis. This would be Willie Peralta versus Adam Wainwright. We both went with Wainwright, and Wainwright took the loss.
Oh, my gosh.
Next one is Kansas City versus Oakland, and that was Jeremy Guthrie versus Sonny Gray. We picked Sonny Gray, and he also took the loss.
We're horrible.
So I believe it's still 5-3. Actually, I think it's a little higher than that.
6-4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6-4. That's what it is. Let's see here. No decision again here for Pittsburgh and Arizona. That was Edison Volquez versus Nuno, who was from the Yankees. Atlanta versus San Diego. Mike Minor versus Eric Stoltz. We both took the loss here, as that was Mike Minor lost to Eric Stoltz. And then the last game was Cubs and Dodgers. We both went with Hendricks, and Hendricks did get the win.
All right.
So I was happy about that. But so you won 7-5.
Bam!
Was the final score, and that was definitely a higher scoring one than we usually have. So that's for sure. All right. While we're at it, before we go to break and stuff, we should go over these matchups here for this week.
We already
picked the Tampa Bay and Cubs game.
I picked Wada, who already has a strikeout and is doing pretty good.
Yeah, so Andrew went with Wada, I went with Archer. We got Cleveland and New York. We got Trevor Bauer versus some guy named Rogers on the Yankees. He's 1-0 with a 5.84 ERA. Bauer is 4-6 with a 4.20 ERA.
I want to call a no decision. I'll go with Bauer.
Bauer, I'm also going to go with Bauer. Plus, I think the Yankees are due for a loss as they took 3 out of 4 from Detroit, which is really good for them because they're back in that wild card race for sure. Mets and Phillies, Bartolo Colon versus A.J. Burnett. They both have ERAs in the 4s, so it's pretty much a toss-up. But I'm not quite sure who I want to go with.
Me neither. It is a toss-up. I'll go with Burnett.
You're going to go with Burnett?
Yep.
All right. I was going to go with Colon, I think, so I'm going to go with Colon. San Diego and Pittsburgh, Ian Kennedy versus Vance Worley. Vance Worley, surprisingly, has had a pretty good year. He's 4-1 with a 2.43 ERA. Ian Kennedy is 8-9 with a 3.59 ERA. So I'm going to go with Worley.
I just picked up Kennedy, so I'm going to go with Kennedy.
All right. Yeah, no, I think I had him at one point in our league. St. Louis and Baltimore, Justin Masterson versus Chris Tillman. Tillman's 8-5 with a 3.78 ERA. Masterson's not doing very well. He's 5-6 with a 5.63 ERA. I think I'm going to go with Tillman.
I'm going with Masterson.
Wow. All right, so yeah, we definitely got some. We haven't picked the same player. I think we've only picked the same player once so far. Wow.
Yeah.
Detroit and Toronto. Anibal Sanchez versus R.A. Dickey.
I'm going with Anibal.
Okay, I'm also going with Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah.
Nathan Eovaldi versus Mike Leake. That's Miami against Cincinnati. Mike Leake is 9-9 with a 3.46 ERA, so that's respectable. But Nathan Eovaldi is 5-6 with a 4.22 ERA. Who are you going to go with?
Leake.
All right, you're going to go with Mike Leake. Boy, this one is kind of interesting too. I'll go with Mike Leake as well. Washington and Atlanta, we got Steven Strasburg versus Irvin Santana. This is another interesting one, as they pretty much have identical numbers. They're 8-9 with a 3. Strasburg is 8-9 with a 3.39 ERA. Irvin Santana is 10-6 with a 3.59 ERA. So who do you think you're going to go with for that?
I'm probably going to go with Santana.
Santana?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Strasburg. I think Strasburg will get the win. Dodgers and Milwaukee. Boy, that's a big series for Milwaukee. Hernandez versus Loesch. Hernandez is 6-8 with a 3.87 ERA. Loesch is 11-6 with a 3.40 ERA.
I'm going to go with Loesch.
You're going to go with Loesch. Loesch hasn't done very well in Miller Park. So I think, boy, this is going to be a tough one, but I think I'm going to go Hernandez. But I would not be surprised if Loesch won. In fact, I'll probably be kicking myself if Loesch wins that. We're going to go to break right now, and then when we come back, we'll finish those up. And then we will have Andrew's friend Ashish call in after the 3:30 update, and he will tell us about his fantasy team, and maybe we'll give him some advice on how to add and drop people correctly.
A lot of advice.
Yeah, so we'll do all that when we come back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back, Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Andrew Freeman.
And we were going over the matchups for this Friday, as we do this every week on Fantasy Fanatics. And then also, quick reminder, coming up in about 10-15 minutes, we'll have Andrew's friend Ashish call in, and we'll talk to him about his fantasy team and some of the moves that he's made in his league, and if he thinks he can try to go stay over that 500 mark, because his record's, what is it, 9-8 or 8-9?
He's 8-9.
8-9, so he's trying to get to 500.
Yes, he's done the most moves out of anybody in our league. I think he's almost to 200.
Oh yeah, I know. Every time I look at that, homepage, it's just like it's all like
Windy
it's all
City.
of his moves, pretty much. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But moving back on to these matchups for tonight, San Francisco and Kansas City. Kansas City's doing pretty well. They're on a big win streak. I think they have the second wild card spot right now. Madison Bumgarner versus Jason Vargas. Bumgarner's 13-8 with a 3.21 ERA. Vargas is 8-5 with a 3.69 ERA.
I mean, this is a tough matchup.
It is.
I'm going to go with the hot hand of Bumgarner, though.
Bumgarner?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to go Bumgarner as well. I think he'll shut down Kansas City. It's at Kansas City, too, by the way. Texas and Houston, we have Mikolas versus Oberholzer on Houston.
Oberholzer, eh?
Oberholzer is 4-7 with a 4.17 ERA. Mikolas is 1-4 with a 7.29 ERA.
7.29, that's rather high.
That is.
Oh, my.
That's not good.
At least be around a 4.
Yeah, so I guess for that I'm going to go Oberholzer, but I really don't know. I mean, these are two bad baseball teams.
Yeah, I mean, easily Texas could just start hitting home runs.
Yeah, Adrian Beltre and
they still have a
Alex
good team.
Rios and the crew. Yep.
They're still there.
So who are you going with?
Oh, I'm definitely going Oberholzer.
Okay. Colorado and Arizona, we got Matzik versus Anderson. Anderson 6-4 with a 3.19 ERA. Matzik is 2-6 with a 5.31 ERA.
Is that the Brett Anderson or no?
C. Anderson.
C.
It says.
Anderson. Okay.
That's why I didn't say the first name. Was I'm
I have
not
no
exactly
idea.
sure what it is.
No, I'll go with Anderson.
Anderson.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. They're in Arizona, so yeah, I'll also go Anderson. 3 more games. We got Boston and L.A. This is in Los Angeles, actually in Anaheim. We got Webster versus Wheeler. Wheeler is 12-6 with a 3.59 ERA.
Sure, it's not Weaver.
Oh yeah. It's Weaver and Webster.
Yeah, you said Webster and Wheeler.
Oh.
My.
It's pretty confusing anyway. But and Webster on Boston is 1-1 with a 6.57 ERA.
I am definitely going with Weaver.
Jared Weaver.
Oh yeah, and Boston getting tore up by New York.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm also going to go Weaver. We got Minnesota and Oakland. We got Kyle Gibson, who's been okay this year. He's 10-8 with a 3.93 ERA versus Scott Kazmir, who's been really good this year. 12-4 with a 2.53 ERA. I got to go Kazmir.
Yeah, I'm going to Kazmir as well.
Yeah. That's a pretty easy pick.
Yeah.
And last game, the White Sox and Seattle.
I'm just going to go Seattle because I don't believe in the White Sox.
But they got a good pitcher going. Jose Quintana, who has a 3.04 ERA, versus Hisashi Iwakuma, who has a 2.94 ERA. So their ERAs are similar, but Iwakuma has more wins. Who are you going to go with?
Iwakuma.
Iwakuma. I'm going to go Quintana because he's on my fantasy team. Not because I think that they... Well, I'm hoping because the Sox are on like a 3-game losing streak, I think. So
yes.
They really need to start to pick it up. They're 55-61 right now.
I believe they could go to like a 6. They could lose this series and get swept.
Yeah,
I can foresee that happening.
That would really be bad.
That would be bad,
especially for them because I mean they had a lot of high hopes going into this season, and they were doing okay for a little bit towards the beginning of the season. Then they were doing really bad. Then they started to pick it up a little bit, and then they lost a series to Minnesota, which you should never do.
Yeah.
Lost the series to Texas this week, and then if they lose tonight, they will lose the series to Seattle. So that would be 3 straight series losses to not so very good teams, especially Texas and Minnesota.
Baez just singled the shallow left.
Yes.
They called a shady strikeout, though. It was way outside the box.
Oh,
They called a strike on it.
Oh, okay. Well,
He got a single. Who cares?
Nice. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
On
That's
the
just got to be a
second-
really cool atmosphere there.
Yeah, the second pitch of the game, he already got a single. I mean, come on.
Right. And plus, they have these cool bobbleheads of Rick Sutcliffe throwing out the first pitch of the first night game at Wrigley Field.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool, too. I think it was like the first 10,000 fans got that or something.
Yeah. Coughlin lined out, but Baez is on and Rizzo's up right now, so hopefully they'll get some runs.
All right, cool. In the meantime, now, while we have a little bit of time, let's check the scores in our fantasy baseball league right now and see just how far back I am of I like Stanton Island Girls. I can't believe he had two. I mean, he's having two like monster weeks, and yeah, that's not good because if he beats me, which it looks like he will, then I'm going.
You're on the negative points today, sir.
I'm on the negative points so far.
Yeah, negative.
Oh well, I think that's because I have Archer pitching.
Yes, you do.
So. Yeah, if he throws a quality start, I'll be okay, but yeah. So why don't you tell us what's going on?
Right now on the scoreboard, Goldschmidt yourself versus Nashville Conquerors. Goldschmidt yourself came back like a fury and beating Nashville Conquerors senselessly. Center Squad versus San Jose Wombats. Center Squad is beating San Jose Wombats as if they were a wombat in the zoo. Ryan's rolling is getting rolled over.
Yes, I am.
I like Stanton girls are making Ryan's rolling look like a girl.
210 to 168. 162-0 and Coco and Company. 162-0 has a small lead versus Coco and Company. Watch out versus Get Down with the Kipnis. Watch out is beating Get Down with the Kipnis like Get Down with the Kipnis is a redheaded stepchild trying to steal little lollipops from Susie. And those are your scores on the scoreboard.
All right, thanks for that, Andrew. Now we're gonna just do an update, and then we'll go to break. I saw your friend called, so he can call back once I go to commercial break. But yeah, first we'll do a quick update. At 3:30, I'm Ryan Stuprich with your SportsTownChicago.com update, brought to you by the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. The big day has finally arrived as Javier Baez will make his home debut at 3 p.m., which he already did, and he singled.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting at Wrigley Field. So it's Yoshi Wada versus former Cubs prospect Chris Archer for the Rays. It is also the anniversary of the first night game at Wrigley Field, and fans in attendance get a special bobblehead commending the event. The Cubs won yesterday at Colorado to take the series 6-2. Javier Baez hit 2 home runs in that game, and Kyle Hendricks got the win. The White Sox lost last night 13-3 as the Mariners hit 4 home runs, including Robinson Cano, in the win for Seattle. Tonight, the Sox, Jose Quintana opposes Hisashi Iwakuma. Dion Viciedo stayed hot with a home run last night in the loss. The handshake agreement has been made between the Cavs and Timberwolves to send Kevin Love to Cleveland for Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, and a first-round pick. The trade will be finalized later this month. The FIBA Basketball World Cup practices are still going on, but Kevin Durant has dropped out of it because he could, quote, not be fully invested into it at this time. The Bears' first preseason game is tonight at Soldier Field. Still no word on Martellus Bennett as he is indefinitely suspended for conduct detrimental to the Chicago Bears organization. This has been your Sports Town.
Wait, I got some important news.
Yes, go ahead.
Rizzo doubled the deep right, sending Baez to third. Castro then had a single to right, sending Baez home. Cubbies score.
Nice. Good job. I'm not even mad about that, so that's all right. My pitcher can give up as many runs as he wants. I'm probably still going to lose this week anyway.
Go Cubs.
Yes, go Cubs. This has been your SportsTownChicago.com update, brought to you by the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. For more information, visit BeyondAir.com. I'm Ryan Stuffridge. We're going to go to break and then come back with Andrew's friend Ashish to talk about his fantasy baseball team. Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. And Andrew, who is on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting hotline?
Right now we have on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting Hotline, Ashish, also known as Watch Out in our league. Hello, Ashish.
What's going on, guys?
Not much. So there was a bet made.
Yeah, apparently so.
162-0 says he can come back and beat you in record.
All right.
I need you to promise me on air right now that will not happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. He finally decides to try to win, but I think it's too late now.
Well, you're both winning
every single week.
You're both winning this week, which is good. But you have me concerned.
Not really.
Because you added Wen Yin Chin, and then you dropped Wen Yin Chin, and then you also added... Who did you add?
Zach Wheeler?
Zach
or Willie
Wheeler?
Peralta?
No, you dropped Zach Wheeler originally, and then you picked him up again and dropped Willie Peralta. When you added Willie Peralta and dropped Wei Yin Chin, and then you added Willie Peralta again after you dropped him and got rid of Danny Santana. Do you know what you're doing? You're got me concerned.
No, it's all strategy. Like, I try to plan out a pitcher for every week because obviously pitchers get more points. And then I started thinking, I was like, well, let me take a book out of Ryan's playbook because his whole bench is fully backup pitchers.
Right.
Yes, because he plays as many pitchers as he can.
Hey, it's worked so far. So.
Yeah, so I'm trying to take it from him so I can let Casey come back and beat my record.
Yes. Do you know who you want as a pitcher now? Because it seemed like you were unsure there for a second.
No, I'm pretty set with my pitcher lineups now.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, and I like the move of getting Willie Peralta. He's leading the National League in wins, I think, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, right now I think he's tied with Rainwright for wins.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Do you know what the bet is?
The bet is if Casey wins, you, Andrew, have to wear a Bears shirt for a whole week, I
A
believe?
Cutler jersey, and you know I hate Cutler.
Oh.
I'm going to cut it so it's a half tummy jersey. My ribs are going to be showing.
Oh, my God.
It'll still say Cutler.
And then if he doesn't beat my record, he has to wear a Blues jersey or shirt.
He has to wear a St. Louis Blues jersey for a week during hockey season. That is correct.
Oh,
Does he hate the St. Louis Blues?
Yes, he is. He is a Hawks fan.
Well, I'm right there with him, but yeah. Wow.
So I was telling Casey if I made the bet, I would have made him wear an Aaron Rodgers shirt.
Yeah.
He hates the Packers way more, I believe.
Yeah, that would be bad for anybody to wear, right?
Yeah. Especially in Chicago. He might get shot.
He might get beaten up.
Yeah.
I should buy him Bears tickets and buy him the jersey, and then just the video of him getting beaten by fans would be
God.
my prize.
There you go.
That would make me happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would work out.
Now you have a tough matchup this week, but you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, Lester went the distance for me yesterday.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier on the show.
I'm hoping my pitching just stays strong.
We were talking about Lester, how he only had like a 3-hit game.
Yes.
Shutout into the 6th inning, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You're now leading Get Down with the Kipnis pretty nicely. Let's look at see who you have next week. We only have a few more weeks left here.
Yeah, I think I have Coco and Company next week.
Let's see. Yeah, you do have Coco and Company, and
he should be able to beat him.
He's an easy win. He's 6-11. He hasn't really done that great.
But the problem is, the previous 2 matchups, he's beaten me. So 2 of those 6 wins are against me.
And then you have I Like Stanton Girls,
who is just beating everybody now.
Yeah.
He's beating me. I'm going to lose this week.
He's beaten me every time I played him.
Yeah.
But 162-0 has I Like Stanton Girls next week, and then he has Nashville Conquerors, so it really looks like steep odds for him. You would literally have to lose every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would have to lose every single
starting
week
next week.
Yeah.
And it looks like he ends with Get Down with the Kipnis, who you're beating, and you end with San Jose Wombats, which it's up in the air for that one.
I mean, he has decent pitching. It's just my bats are hot. That's why, like you said, you guys are saying, well, you're picking up this guy, you're dropping this guy. a lot of it is I'm trying to go with who's hot at the moment, batting-wise, because Chris Davis hasn't done anything for me
Yeah.
all season. So I've been trying to play with that, but I just finally said, you know what, I'll just stick with what I got as starting lineup and just focus on pitching.
Let's take a look at your moves, because I think you have the most moves out of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I have like
for sure.
140 some moves through the season.
Yes.
Wow.
And that
Yep.
shadows everybody in the league.
Yep.
And but hopefully you can pull it out for me. You're playing for me now,
Yeah.
not
Apparently
just
so.
yourself, but me as well.
Yeah, so you don't have to wear a Cutler's jersey, apparently.
Yes, I don't want to wear a Cutler's jersey.
Or I could always just throw it and make you wear one.
That would not please me. And I would have to make a buy rule that if he does throw it, then it's null and void.
No, I'm not throwing it.
Okay, good. At least make the playoffs, bud.
Yeah, right now I'm in a 6th spot. I gotta stick with it.
Yep, stick with it and win.
Yeah,
All right.
because 6 out of the 10 go to the playoffs, so you got to make sure you're
Yep.
in that 6th spot or higher, and then, yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, that's all we needed. Thanks for calling
All
in.
right.
Yeah,
No
thanks
problem.
for calling in.
Have a good day.
Yep,
No
later.
problem. Have a good day.
All right, and that was Andrew's friend Ashish, who called in to talk about his fantasy baseball team, and I'm sure he'll call in at some point, too, to talk about his fantasy football team a little later on.
Yeah, once we get that started, I mean, it's coming up soon. As soon as our league ends,
Right.
ends in September 7th,
Okay.
football starts the 9th, I think. September 9th.
I think
maybe a little
September
sooner.
7th, I don't know.
Actually,
Actually, I
Friday
think,
night games this year? Because there's a ton.
No.
Was it Thursday or Friday?
only in preseason do they do, like, Thursday, Friday games.
no,
well,
like all
well,
last season there was Thursday games or Friday games.
not Friday.
Wait, it was Saturday night football maybe?
No,
no.
they're on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Thursday, there's always one game a week on Thursdays, and then they have, on Thanksgiving there's like 3, and then they keep doing the Thursday night games.
I just remember there being some complaints about that many. There's never been that many Thursday night games.
Right. Yes, I know that they've added a lot more. Well, and that's just because it's on NFL Network, so it's a national audience.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people don't have NFL Network, but but at least it starts to reach a national audience. So I think that's definitely going to be interesting. So yeah.
I'm totally pumped for football though.
Yeah, I am too. I'm not as good at least. I don't think I'm as good at fantasy football as I am at fantasy baseball, but I think I'll have a pretty good year. And I mean, there's always people in the league who stop checking their team, or like halfway through, or possibly even sooner than that, as we saw like in our fantasy baseball league.
Always call up those people and embarrass them on live radio.
Yeah,
So
and I'm thinking what we should do is possibly. Not every week, but every week that someone's available, have a person from our league call in and talk about their team.
That'd be great.
We should definitely do that.
Get them involved a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and also to get involved, I think we still have our Twitter account, but we haven't really been doing much with it. But
it's so hard to
it's hard to run
6 Twitters all at once.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, especially when you accidentally tweet something and then you're in the wrong account or something. Like, no,
darn.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's pretty difficult, but you can like our Facebook page on Facebook. We'll try to post more stuff on there. For sure.
I'm on and off with that.
Yeah, I'm sort of like that too. So we got a little bit of time left to talk about just some other stuff going on. The Bears have their first preseason game tonight. What are you looking for the Bears for this preseason game? Anything in particular?
Cutler to have a spiral fracture of his femur.
Oh, don't say that. Because if it's going to happen to anybody, it'll happen to him too, and then I'll cry.
I don't.
Well, I know you don't like him, but I mean, he is our best chance.
Is he though?
Well, I think Josh McCown's not going to have a very good season at all with Tampa Bay.
I don't know.
Especially
We'll
with Lovie Smith as the coach. I mean, they're going to be 8-8, 9-7 maybe on that, possibly going to the playoffs. But they're in a tough division there with the Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons. And the Falcons had a really bad year last year. They're not going to have nearly as bad of a year as they did.
If they go 8-8, they'll tie the Chicago Bears.
I'm telling you, I think the Bears 10 or 11 wins. I think that's what it's going to be. And I know a lot of people have them winning the division. I mean, you still have the Packers in the way, but the Bears did improve a lot, and their offense is the best in the division.
You still have a lot of teams in the way. The Seahawks.
Right. No, but I mean, like, going to the playoffs, I think the Bears have a really good chance.
You'll make it to the playoffs, but you'll lose.
Well, you said that they might go 8-8, so how are the Bears going to go 8-8 and make it to the playoffs?
It's happened before.
I know, but it's not going to happen in this division when
our division
Detroit's
is so competitive that it's very possible.
Yeah, well,
teams with losing records have made it into the playoffs.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, the Packers are probably going to get 10 wins. The Lions could get 10 wins.
I don't
know.
The
Bears
the
are going to get 10 wins.
Packers' defense is not. I might almost pick the Chicago Bears defense over the Packers defense the way they're looking.
At this point, I still wouldn't do that, but I understand what you're saying.
They have good linebackers, but their secondary's garbage.
Yeah, it is. I understand what you're saying, and the Packers do give up a lot of points.
A lot of points. I mean, that's why they have Rodgers to throw up all those points.
Yeah,
but
it's sort of like a Broncos
situation. If you're
situation.
playing a team like the Broncos or the Saints, yikes. You've got to hit 49, 50 points.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not really even an exaggeration. I mean, you really do have to get like 50 points to beat the Saints or the Broncos or just whoever else. But I mean, it's really going to be interesting. So I'm just excited that I can finally watch the Bears in an actual game-like situation.
The only games I wouldn't want to watch are like the Dolphins versus Buffalo, where they go 13-10.
Yeah, those are going to be bad. And I don't even think those teams really improved at all.
Tannehill fumbled, and then the defense fumbled, and then Tannehill got it back. Oh.
I know the Bears do play the Dolphins this year in October, so that'll be hopefully
expect the Bears to beat them down.
They should, and then the Bears also have Tampa Bay coming, which is going to be really interesting because you have Josh McCown,
yeah, your old coach, you're pretty much your
Devin
old
Hester and Lovie
team
Smith
is in Tampa Bay, so that's going to be awkward.
Yeah, it's the Chicago Bears South.
It's like
team.
having your husband right next to your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
the one you dumped right before you met her. You're like, oh,
that game.
Awkward.
If the Bears lose that game, I might be more upset than if they lose to the Packers.
Yeah,
just because I mean, it's like your old coach is coming in and he didn't do anything for the Bears, and then he comes in and he beats you. It's just
you're
sucks.
thinking, did we build up the team or did we deconstruct the team? Like,
right.
That is what the thought process will be in Chicago.
Yeah, it's wow. That's going to be really interesting to see. Who else did the Bears play? The Bears, well, of course, they played the Packers, Lions, and Vikings twice, but the one game, and the Bears have a really hard start to their schedule. In week 2, they're playing San Francisco in San Francisco for their home opener in their new field.
That's not fun.
That's going to be a crazy atmosphere. I saw a couple photos of the field. It's really nice. And I think it's sort of like a ground level thing, so you just sort of like walk in at field level, so it's kind of strange, but it looks pretty cool. But yeah, that's going to be crazy, and I think that's a Sunday night game.
I'm glad you guys are playing San Francisco early because they sort of like leash Colin Kaepernick. They don't let him run as much the first few weeks. Mm-hmm. It's not up till they get to the playoffs where like, do what you want.
And then I know the Bears. I don't think the Bears have won in San Francisco. I saw this last year because the Bears. I think they also played San Francisco last year in San Francisco, but they don't win against the 49ers. I don't think they've won since like the 1980s. I'm against the 49ers, so that's definitely going to be interesting. They play the Saints again this year. They play the Cowboys again this year.
I'm not worried about I think you guys.
I'm not worried about the Cowboys, but I am worried about the Saints because last year the Saints beat the Bears, and I was at that game. Oh,
you're like, why did I spend
very,
very
disappointed
$150 for tickets?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, that they're so expensive, and then me and my dad and my brother go, and I mean, the game was going good for a while, and then I think Drew Brees threw a couple touchdowns late, and then the Bears got a touchdown late, and they missed the onside kick, and then that was it. Because Robbie Gould can't kick onside kicks.
No.
He's like the worst. I think he's like the worst, or he's gone the longest. He's gone the longest without completing a successful onside kick.
Yeah, you should hire an onside kicker.
Right, yeah, just
have a defenseman because they have fat feet.
Defenseman do it.
They can't really kick too well.
Well,
go about 10 yards if you kick it as hard.
Well, yeah, the problem is it has to go at least 10 yards for it to count.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think Seattle's just going to go right?
I expect Seattle
the
to
Super
go
Bowl?
to the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, their team hasn't changed. They still have so many of their awesome teammates on rookie contracts. So,
Right.
I mean, I expect much of the same from last year. And they made Denver look so silly, like wee little ladies. I couldn't tell you a weakness other than their quarterback short. That's like it. That's
Exactly. And speaking of the Broncos, I'm not so sure they're going to have nearly as good of a season as they had last
I
year.
feel like, you know when Favre had that amazing season?
The year he won the Super Bowl or what?
No.
Or-
I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
when he played
Like
for
a
the
little later.
Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Way later.
Yeah, and that they went to the NFC Championship.
Because I'm thinking Peyton Manning's old stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Favre had that amazing season.
Yeah, he
Then
did.
The
And
season
the
after
Vikings
that,
went to the NFC Championship against the Saints.
And
It's
then the
pretty
season
crazy.
after that, does anyone talk about Favre or know what he's doing? No,
No.
because he's horrible.
Right. So you think that could happen
I feel
with
like
Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning is going to have that year where you're like, okay, the age is catching up to him. What is he, 38 years old?
Something like that. Yeah,
37?
yeah, he's getting up there. I mean, him and Eli Manning both, and
He only got sacked a handful of times, but if you double that, is he going to make it through the whole season? I don't think so.
yeah. And also, speaking of Mannings, you know, the Giants had a bad year last year, but they could have a pretty good year this year. I mean,
I don't
if
know
you
where
look,
Manning's head was at. Like,
right.
younger Manning.
Yeah, I mean, I like Eli Manning, and I was rooting for him in the 2 Super Bowls that he won because they were against the Patriots.
I think his
but-
front line was just weak that year.
right, because I'm
He's getting
looking,
sacked a
I'm
lot.
looking at the teams in their division. I mean, Dallas.
Yeah.
The Giants should be able to beat out
The
Dallas.
Eagles, I believe.
They have the Eagles and the Washington Redskins. So I mean, you know, your only real competition are the Eagles. And if you can, and if Foles somehow has a bad year, you know, if he doesn't do good in the second year, I mean, the Giants could win that division. It's not out of the question.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, it'll
I wouldn't
probably
be
go to the
surprised.
Eagles, but I would not be surprised if the Giants won that
Every
division.
year you think the Eagles are good. Something happens.
Right. And isn't your quarterback Nick Foles?
Nick
Right.
Foles is my quarterback.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like that move because I think when he does really good, and he's one
Yeah.
of the best fantasy quarterbacks as far as
Plus,
points.
he has a running back to back him up.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to throw every game like Matthew Stafford.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily count the Giants out, but that's a pretty weak division.
Yeah.
The Cowboys and Redskins.
Yeah, I could
I mean,
definitely.
wow.
They could make it wild card easy.
I mean, the NFC North used to be weak. Now it's one of the strongest when you got 3 teams that could easily win the division.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be tough to see. But, yeah, that'll pretty much do it here for Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. We'll be back next week to talk about fantasy football and fantasy baseball, and then in a couple weeks the NFL will start, and that's everyone's favorite time of year.
yes, fantasy football is a month away.
So it's very exciting. So I'm Ryan Stuprich,
I'm Andrew Freeman.
and we will see you next week on Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.